Welcome to the Speak the Language podcast presented by OnX Hunt. Today is March the 23rd.
You are fired up.
Yeah.
That was the best intro you've done in a while.
So I was told by somebody that in my intros it sounded like I was tired in some of them.
You usually do.
Which-
That's why I just said that. I picked up on it.
Yeah, someone's like, man, have you been sleepy when you're recording these? I'm like, no, I don't think I am.
Well, it's turkey season.
So I was trying to like throw a little bit of extra,
I picked up on it.
You did, yeah. I mean, and that's a guy messaged me, and then I was I was talking to Wilbur about. I mean, I was just talking to Wilbur nonchalantly, and he asked, and he said, "Hey, how's the podcast going?" I was like, "It's going good," and he doesn't normally ask about that. So I was like, "Why do you ask?" He was like, "Well, I got a buddy that listens to it, and he said that you started." He said the intros, you sounded like you were lacking energy. I was like, huh. So there was like two different people who told me that, which I'm not. Like, I mean, it must be, I started doing more like set up intros, like not like we're doing right now where we're just going into it. But I'd done some in the past where I like record an intro separately and all this stuff, and maybe when I do those, I'm just not as high energy. I don't know.
You need to drink you one of them Pursuit Energies before you start this thing.
Hey, yeah. I forget. That would be a good time to plug it. I forget everything that there is to mention about it. But I know Pursuit Energy is teamed up with Primos, and it's like something like Green Gobbler or something. I don't know. I'll probably throw it in there. Primos Hunting has teamed with Pursuit Energy to bring a great tasting all-day energy to your hunt. The Call of the Wild in a can, produced right here in the USA. It's available in 2 high-caliber and zero-sugar flavors, Original Gobbler and Blazing Orange. You can go to PursuitEnergy.com and search Primos Hunting and order yours today. I drank one of those things. Did get me buzzing.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Buzzing like drunk?
No. Like I was no, not buzzing like drunk.
Could you drive when you drank one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I felt like, I drank it one morning. I had been getting up aggressively early to go hunting for several mornings in a row.
You were hitting it hard in the paint there that first week.
Mm-hmm.
I was like concerned about you. You were turning into me from 2019.
Well, I didn't want anyone to, beat me to where I was going, but it was several 3 a.m. mornings in a row. And I drank one of them Pursuit things, and I just remember feeling like I got to where I was going real fast. And not like I didn't get there any faster because I was like, was I speeding? And I looked at the clock, and I was like, well, I got there the usual time that I got there, but it's like some of that space between here and there just didn't exist.
You blacked out.
I could really feel the road. Yeah.
Boy, it's been a week. Turkey season's been open now in Mississippi for 1 week and 1 day.
Yeah, we're in it to win it at this point.
It's been fun.
I have not seen. I'll put this statement out there first. I have not known a Mississippi turkey season to open up so fire red hot since we were talking about it privately the other day. I remember the spring of 2012.
Yep.
That one, it reminds me of that, and I don't really remember another one in between here and there.
2017 was good. 2017 was a good year.
2017, that was the year Colin Polk killed his first turkey. So, yes, I would agree with that.
Other than that, yeah, it's usually weather. It's such weather-related stuff. Yeah. I mean, turkeys are usually gobbling pretty decently on good days, but
right.
Seems like every year, normally like opening days, like windy and cloudy.
Right.
And then this year it was crystal clear and like 35 degrees. I mean, they were feeling it.
That time that me, you, and Dave hunted together right around here at the opener.
Oh, yeah.
It was like 5 days of the worst turkey weather imaginable.
Oh, yeah. Wind, rain.
Muggy. When it wasn't raining,
bad chicken tenders.
Bad chicken tenders. When it wasn't raining, it was just like super humid, super cloudy, just not ideal. But yeah, the weather was so good for the first couple of days. And then, again, like, we're not biologists, but we had all that warm weather leading up to the spring opening up,
Yeah.
So it's
I was listening to the weather the other day, and I have no idea if this has any correlation with like turkey behavior. I don't think it does with the breeding cycle, but the weather guy said we were like 5-6 weeks ahead on spring.
Yeah.
This was like 3 weeks ago.
Well, I do know. So everyone, probably 99% of the people that listen to this know who Dr. Chamberlain is and probably follow him on Instagram. Now, remember, he did a Turkey Tuesday that was talking about the old phrase that the turkeys are going to be gobbled out by season.
Right.
But I remember what, he pretty much, debunked that myth. That doesn't happen. But he did say that if you, in February or whatever, they'll catch a good weather day, and it's essentially, in layman's term, it's like the males, the gobblers, they just get to feeling good.
They get to feeling it. Just like, same way with any animals in the woods on good high pressure, pretty days, they move more active.
So, like, I wonder, with all this good weather, if the gobblers weren't just like, man, this feels good. I want to strut,
And that may have had something to do, with their gobbling activity peaked a lot because, obviously the hens are going to do what they're going to do as far as the breeding cycle.
Right.
But, the weather obviously has to have something to do with making the gobblers, like, ready to go, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. You had – I don't remember where I left off last podcast I did because I did one of my solo rants.
Yeah, I listened to a few minutes of it and then got off on something else.
But I know I did Florida, and I know that at the time – I know I had mentioned that you were hunting up north and you were with Dave.
Yeah.
But obviously I couldn't give any details up because I wasn't there. So I don't know what happened.
Man, we had a pretty eventful opening morning. Like, about as eventful as you could hope for. So I got up there Monday. I actually, since I'm no longer at Primo's full time, I had a chance to join a camp this year since I'm home more.
Yeah.
And it was actually a camp I hunted in when I was working at Mossy Oak. We actually helped start this thing, helping gather up the land, get leased and stuff, and that's been like 8 years ago.
I remember you telling me about that.
And I always loved it up there, but it wasn't justifiable for me to stay in the club because I rarely got to travel and hunt by myself. So I was like, I told Mr. Ken about it last year. I was like, I'm going to join that thing again. You got some openings? And he's like, yeah, I got a spot open. And anyway, I joined it back last summer. And honestly, this is a funny conversation. I was talking to Dave in February or something, or January, February, sometime or another. And he was talking about if he didn't get his public land user permit for out of state, you want to work something out, hunt somewhere or something. And I was like, yeah, I got to figure out where to go, though. I had forgot I joined the club. I got thinking about it. Man, I just joined the club up here.
You're sitting there going, if I only knew it somewhere. No idea.
Yeah, but I joined a year ago, just a turkey hunt pretty much. So, it slipped my mind for a little while. And anyway, he did not get drawn his public land user thing. So it kind of put a damper on his normal plans.
Yeah.
Has to go with us private boys.
Which, I've heard a lot of people talk about that, the whole public land, out-of-state permit. I understand it. I know some folks have been upset about it.
Well, I think even non-residents understand it.
Yeah.
It's not fun when it happens to you, though.
Because what happened is essentially everyone knows Alabama shifted their season back.
Yeah.
Arkansas already had a later season. But when you had Florida, Alabama, and Mississippi all open up at the same time, it dispersed those non-resident hunters out a little bit. Well, when Mississippi's still having a general season open on March the 15th, now, we were just getting this heavy influx, and we had to do something to regulate it. Of course, you and I reap the benefits because we're residents here, so we don't have to deal with it. But, I understand it. I know it's upsetting to some people, but I, like you said, I think most of them understand it too.
And honestly, I think it's made a difference. Not that I'm against people coming here. I'm not against it at all, people coming from out of state to hunt here at all. But the one thing that does damper hunting is pressure, period.
Yeah.
No matter where the pressure is coming from, it hurts your hunting.
Right.
And I have noticed last year and this year it being better quality hunting on the forest out here. So,
yeah.
it's obviously It may be coincidence, but something's happening where it's a little bit better quality.
It's at very least a factor.
Yeah.
Not going to go as far. But so, yeah, Dave ends up with you at your camp.
Yeah, so I get up there last Monday and get up Tuesday morning and go listen, and me and Mr. Ken end up hearing some birds and kind of get a general idea where they're at. I mean, we didn't encroach on them at all because gonna let them do what they're gonna do.
Right.
And but stood up on a big high point, somewhat got a gist of where they were and what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And looking at Onyx, dude, this ain't no shameless plug, but that app you can scout from a distance so easy.
Right. Yeah. Well. Yeah.
Like you get a bird marked where it's gobbling from. Well, you turn on the hybrid mode, especially up there. It's really hilly territory, terrain.
Right.
So you can kind of figure out where they're going to be and how they're going to move via topo.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. Kind of came up with a game plan for the following morning. And Dave showed up that afternoon or that night sometime. No, he came. He was going to show up the night before, and ended up coming up opening morning, waking up at like 2 o'clock in the morning, driving down. And he showed up about 5 o'clock in the morning. And
Sweet Caroline.
you know, he's an Indian that beats his own drum.
Sure.
So anyway, we go out that opening morning and go, I don't know, maybe a half to 3/4 of a mile where we think the turkeys should be. Get up on this ridge and it's breaking day. And one thing unique about these turkeys, they don't gobble super early up there. It's like you're standing there like, okay, a turkey should be gobbling
Like
now.
consistently they don't gobble?
Like, they should be gobbling now, but they're not. It's usually about 15 minutes after you think they should be gobbling when they start gobbling. And Mr. Ken told me that, of course. I was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
We can pull
Whatever.
We can pull one. He was right. He was right. And I figured that out the morning before, too, because I was standing up there hooting my little brains out. And he was like, you're wasting your time. They ain't gobbling yet. You got to wait for the first crow, and then you'll hear a turkey gobble. And he was right. 100% right.
Don't guide the guide.
Nope. And anyway, we're standing there waiting on the crow to go off so we can hear a turkey.
Yeah.
And sure enough, crow, hear one way out in the distance. I hoot, a turkey gobbles, and he sounds like he's 350-ish from us, like pretty close. And we start making our way towards him and get like, we feel like within about 250 of him or so, like close enough, like we all be able to hear him really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I hoot, nothing. And then finally hoot really loud one time, and turkey gobbles, and it seems a lot farther away than the one we heard off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, okay, maybe just turn on a tree or something. We could hear him better the first time. So we make a big loop down this logging road towards some fields, and we're like, common sense kind of looks like turkeys roosted at SMZ, and they'll probably fly down and work their way towards them fields. That's just kind of what common sense would tell you in this situation. And we get towards the edge of that field. Turkeys are gobbling pretty good now. And we can tell there's 2 or 3 of them up in there gobbling.
Wadded up, like typical early season scenario.
Yep, like a whole flock. Mm-hmm. And they're far enough in the SMZ where we feel like we can get on the edge of that field.
Explain what an SMZ is, just in case.
Streamside Management Area.
I just like to make sure. I don't want to leave anybody out. Yeah.
So what a SMZ is area of hardwoods around a drainage that timber companies leave for erosion purposes.
Yeah.
A lot of times they leave good stands of hardwoods in there because they can't cut them because the road so bad. They have to do that.
Yeah.
And we're hunting timberland, like commercial timberland.
Right.
So
if you ever, it's a very common happenstance if you hunt in any part of the Southeast. You're just in nothing but stands of pines, and then you take one step and you're in a drain or a creek, and you're in this big stretch of hardwoods. That would be an SMZ.
Yep, and this particular area we're hunting, it's got a couple of these SMZs that run through there. So typically you expect turkeys to be on those because those are good roosting sites, usually water running through there, just kind of. And a lot of there's a thick pines, so it just makes sense for turkeys to be in those SMZs. Well, anyway, we get to the edge of the field. Turkeys gobble up the holler, and we feel like they're going to come out the corner because that's where the SMZ butts up to the cotton field. So we're like, let's make a little power move here, get within 100 yards of that corner, go ahead and sit down, see what they do. And we're not expecting to call turkeys to us. I mean, they're flocked up turkeys. They're going to do what they want to do typically.
You're more or less like hoping they're just naturally wanting to drift that direction.
Yeah, and if they're drifting that way, you can call them to you. But if they're not, good luck.
Yeah, you're just going to listen to them.
Yeah. And anyway, we get set down, and I think Dave may have yelped or something. They gobbled up the holler. I mean, way on up there. We're kind of thinking they're going the other way at this point.
Right.
And we said, well, okay, it's opening morning. Need to be patient. Usually turkeys just kind of do their own thing anyway early in the season. So we sit down. A few minutes goes by. I yelp, and a turkey gobbles up that holler. Maybe sounds like he's 300, 350. And okay, cool. Still not expecting anything crazy to happen. Wait a couple seconds. Yelp at him again. He hits it harder that time. Well, he may be interested. And we're still just kind of sitting there, not expecting anything to happen super fast. And I wait maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Yelp again. This son gun belts at about 75 yards from us.
So he covered some ground quick.
Fast.
I mean, quick.
Super fast.
Golly.
And Ken pulls his gun up. It's one of these deals, as soon as he gobbles, you can hear him drumming.
Yeah.
He pops out in the field. He's probably 85, 90 yards. And no sooner than he comes out in the field, he turns towards us and starts running, sprinting. And stuff's happening in a extreme hurry right now. I don't even know if Dave got the camera good on him or got it focused because it just happened so fast.
Right.
Turkey come running at us, and I think Mr. Ken may got a little excited.
Happens.
He shot, and turkey flies off, and I shoot at him flying because I wasn't sure if he hit him or not, and I don't think it would hurt the turkey at all, but shots fired.
Right.
Got a miss under our belt already.
Happens. It happens.
We're sitting there licking our wounds. We sat there because at the time we thought a turkey that came to us was not part of the main flock. And I still don't think he was. I think he was a satellite.
Just kind of someone had pushed him out of there, and he was just happened to be close to him.
Well, what our guess is either some jakes or something or gobblers were running him out, running him to us because the way he was acting. He was not running to us calling, even though he was very interested. He was gobbling. But he didn't come out running like he was coming to yelping. He was running like he was getting chased.
Okay, gotcha.
And anyway, it's let them calm down. Man, they heard shots, yeah, but
they don't really know.
They're shooting all the time.
Sure.
You're in North Mississippi. There's all kinds of shooting going on up there. So never did hear the other turkeys gobble anymore, but we had some jakes come up to us right there, scratching, feeding. That's when we kind of put the two and two together. If jakes may have ran that gobbler down here. And sat there for an hour or so. Nothing ever happened. Decided to make a loop and try to get up on the top side of this. This might near a mountain. It's a couple hundred feet in elevation change. And in order to do that, we got to go back to where we came and then loop around.
Yeah.
And so on the way back, me and Dave were talking. It's you know what? That turkey we heard first thing this morning, no way that was the turkeys we got on. It had to be a turkey in between us. He just never gobbled anymore when those other ones started gobbling.
Gotcha.
So there's a SMZ, a little small one, it's maybe 60 yards wide and runs maybe 400 yards up this ridge. And we stop at the bottom of it and cast some yelps up there and heard something. Did not recognize it as a gobble, but the timing was too weird. Dave and I looked at each other yeah, we both agree the timing was should be a gobble.
Yeah.
Wait a few seconds, do it again. Sure enough, it's a turkey gobbling up the top of the SMZ.
And it gained some ground, huh?
Yeah. Then we could hear him 100% gobble that time. And so we get in the SMZ, go in there probably 60 and yelp at him again. He's moving towards us. So we get set down, find us a little spot to sit, and get everything set up. Dave gets the camera out. I get set down. Ken gets set down, make sure we're good and hid. And Dave yelps at him, and he gobbles again. He's probably 150 from us at this point.
Holy smokes. Yeah, so he's like coming.
Yeah, oh yeah. And he kind of stands his ground for a second, like gobbling. Mm-hmm. You yelp at him, he gobbled. Doesn't sound like he's moved for like 5 or 10 minutes.
Gotcha.
Well, the last time he gobbled, Dave just hits him hard, like cutting, cackling right behind his gobble, like she's excited. Mm-hmm. And then shuts up. And then he starts free gobbling coming towards us. He gets to about 100 yards and goes quiet. We're just sitting there in
looking
anticipation.
For him. Yeah,
you know?
Where's he at?
Then all of a sudden I hear, I'm like, where is this joker at? I can, like, it's close enough where I ought to be looking at him.
Yeah.
And I can't.
You ain't just hearing the drum. You hearing the drum.
I can hear it in my chest.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Yeah.
And anyway, just sitting there, like, I don't know, it's probably 5 minutes, but it seems like an eternity. Mm-hmm. Like, is this joker behind us? Because I should be looking at him.
Right, yeah.
And I'm cutting my eyes left, right, all over the place, and like, why can't I see this turkey? And he's just steady. Finally, I see a catch a little bit of movement about 50 yards from us. I'm like, okay, there he is.
Yeah.
And I ain't kidding. This son going to walk down this hill. He looks like an ostrich. I was not expecting him to look that big because he was so close when he popped out behind a tree. Like, he's like 35 yards.
Oh, yeah. So you're like, oh, crap.
That's a big old turkey. And, man, we are in the thickest of stuff. Like, you won't expect a turkey to be in there. Like, you can only see like 40, 50 yards. And down in the SMZ, you can see farther. But he's working the edge of the pines. Mm-hmm. And the thick stuff. And he walks down towards the SMZ about 10 yards from where he's been drumming. And like, it's no way. I'm like, I got like one hole. If he keeps coming, he's going to be in the open. Me and Ken, either one of us can shoot him. He gets to about 30 yards. He's kind of angling from our left to right at like a slightly degree towards us, but more left to right. And he gets to about 30 yards. He's behind a tree for me, and he stops, and he's looking. Mm. I'm like, I hope Ken can kill him right there because we on a ticking time clock.
Yeah,
right now.
You know, when they get like that, you know you only have so much time.
Well, Ken couldn't shoot him either. He had a tree in between him and the turkey. And I see him pop that wing feather, mm-hmm. and he turns around, and I'm assuming he either slightly smelled a rat or just didn't see anything at all.
Right, yeah. He knows he had gotten close enough. He's like, this hen ain't here and she should be.
He wasn't boogery by any means, but he was just like, okay, I observed the situation. I'm going back, probably going to go back up here and drum some more.
Right.
And Dave's like, can you kill him right there? I was like, no, I got too much stuff. And I get to looking like where he's walking, and I find one little hole in there. And I'm like, if he comes in there, I can shoot at him.
Shoot.
And,
we already got one miss this morning. Might as well.
And anyway, a turkey walks in the hole and happens to like hesitate in the hole, and I shoot and roll him up right there. And I mean, it was just one of those hunts, like intense. I could feel my heart. I felt like it had came unglued and came up in my throat.
Yeah.
And just thumping. And that was just I mean, it's one of my favorite hunts, like doing it like that. When they get up in there and it's so intense, you can't see them, but you can hear them, and you can hear them walking in the leaves. But you're like, why can't I see this dang turkey?
There's a very thin margin of error, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it was like if he'd have went through that hole too fast, or I wouldn't have pulled the trigger when I did, we would not have killed that turkey. Yeah. Like, it was like just margin of error was very slim. Mm-hmm. But it was a heck of a hunt. And then we hunted the next couple mornings, and we got on some turkeys. They just was being hard-headed like they supposed to be.
Just acting like they normally do. And that's what I mean by how the season started. Is like I've heard more stories across the state, you know, pretty much of turkeys acting like that, and you're like, man, where is this coming from?
Yep. And Ken ended up killing one 2 afternoons later. So that was fun to see him get some redemption under his belt after the mishap. So
they gobble and all that, or were they
didn't gobble, but they came up a road to call him.
Come to the open.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Been fine, man. I mean, it's been good, man. It's been real good.
Yeah. Yeah.
The second day of the season, like the first day of the season, where I was, the first morning, like I heard turkeys, but they acted like I expected them to act. for opening day birds. Like, heard 2 different turkeys. They gobbled, both of them gobbled 2 or 3 times. And then the turkey furthest from me gobbled 1 time for sure on the ground, possibly a second time, but he was far enough from me that I couldn't have been sure. However, the second morning is what I would describe to somebody as the second morning of the season was I had about as fun of a hunt as one could have without shooting a turkey. So I made, and I told you some of this. There was a turkey roosted on a drainage, similar setting to what you're referring to as like the SMZ. I mean, turkeys roosted on drainages and creek systems. It's kind of a common turkey thing to do. And, I didn't know whether or not that turkey was going to roost in that same spot or same tree, but I was like, my plan was for the next morning, because of how they had acted that day before, is I was like, man, I'm going to get in there super early and I'm going to walk, and I was going to be sitting on a tree listening. If it happened to be a good spot, great, but if not, I was going to be a good spot to, move and get set up on him, because I wanted to be within 150 yards of where he was roosted the first time he gobbled.
Already amongst them.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I started walking, and, the woods are so open, and you got leaves and sticks and briars. So when I started walking, I mean, it was like 5 a.m. Like, it was dark. And I'm just like, I don't know how long it took me to get there, but, like, I got sat down and I felt confident. I was like, all right, I'm in here clean. It's still plenty dark enough, so on and so forth. And it starts breaking daylight, and the gobble was not 15 minutes late, but I'd been sitting there and it had been 5 minutes past when I thought I should have heard a turkey. Mm-hmm. Like, it had been long enough that I was like, man, are they not even in here anymore? Are they not gobbling? Or am I under them? And, that's not what they're doing. About that time, a crow comes and buzzes a tree. Like, I mean, I see this crow swoop down and get right on top of this tree and go, ah, ah, and this turkey just, and he's maybe 80.
Did the crow buzz his tree?
Because I wasn't looking up at the crow. Uh-huh. Like, I'm just like looking out into the woods. I catch the crow in my peripherals. If he wasn't in his tree, it was
right there on.
Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? Because I'm not looking up.
The crow was calling at him, at the turkey?
Yeah. I mean, like, the crow buzzes right over, and he just, and again, I'm thinking at the closest I'm going to be 150 yards from this turkey, and he's 80, 85. And I'm like, oh, sweet Caroline. Like, what have I done?
In the spot. That's a good feeling.
Oh, I know. I was like, I did like a subliminal fist pump to myself. I was like, and so I was like, I'm close enough, and I'm close enough that I'm going to let him gobble before I even consider making any noise at him, Mm-hmm. And especially because I just assumed, especially the way I was like, he's got to have hens. There's no way he doesn't. And he stayed up in the tree not too late, but later than it was about the same as his gobble. Like, he was up in the tree. Like, at one point he'd stop gobbling for a little while. And I was like, is he on the ground? He should be. And about that time, he's still in the tree. I'm like, huh. Well, I tree yelped to him one time, and he answered me. And I wait, and I'm like, all right, that's all I'm doing. And wait a little bit longer, and it's probably about 5 minutes later than I thought he would. He gobbles, and he's on the ground. And he is pitched kind of, I guess, not like he's pitched. If I'm facing the turkey, he's pitched off to the left. Mm-hmm. He's not going any further away from it, but he's pitched off to the left. And I have this kind of barrier of briars directly in front of me. If I didn't have that barrier of briars there, because all I'm seeing is like some briars and treetops, and I couldn't really see that in the pitch dark, I mean, there's a real chance I could have seen the turkey in the tree if that wasn't there. But it allowed me to move, because he started gobbling on the ground over there, and I saw that barrier of briars for about 50 yards, and then it opened up. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, if I ooze up, and I mean, when I say ooze up, I don't mean stand up and walk. I mean, if I crawl another 50 yards and get pretty much within gun range where this briar ends and it opens up. If I can call him, he's going to have to come look around this point to see me. That was kind of my mindset. It's my best move I can make.
Right.
And so I get up there, I get sat down. He's gobbled 3 or 4 more times while I've been moving, so I know I'm good. And I get everything ready, and I was like, all right, I'm going to yelp again. And at this point, all I'd heard was him. And like I said, I had tree yelped, and that was it. But I'd moved, and I get everything ready, and I yelp. And when I yelp, this hen goes bananas, just and then it turns into 2 hens. And the 2 hens are coming my direction, and when they start cutting and yelping, the gobbler starts losing his mind. I mean, just choking on himself. And I'm sitting there going, holy moly, this is awesome,
Yeah.
I'm like, this is everything that you could want, Well, a little time goes by, and, I mean, we're steady. They'd cut, I'd cut. They'd yelp, I'd yelp. I was trying to get them, miffed. And I start looking, and I'm catching movement. I can tell I'm looking at a turkey if I'm facing 12 o'clock, they're at about my 11. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at the back of a turkey, but I'm not sure what it is. And finally, I see a head come up, and it's a hen. And I see another one, it's the 2 hens, and they're walking at me just yelping and cutting, just yelping and cutting. And the gobbler gobbles, and he's still just off the side where I can't see him. And I'm like, man alive. And the hens probably get about 40 yards, and this one hen that was more vocal than the other, I mean, she's just just looking. I hear him gobble again. He's put a little bit closer, and I'm hearing him drum. I can hear him walking in the leaves, and I'm like, man, I've got him. I mean, I've done to click the safety off. I'm thinking anytime he's going to come around this point, and I got him. Well, I catch movement right around the edge of the point, and I'm like, whew. And I see this black blob. It comes around the point a little bit further, and I see white head tucked into some feathers. And I'm like, man, there he is. And I go as far as putting my red dot on his head. And I'm waiting because I've still got some briars. I'm waiting him to come all the way around. And then when I was looking at him on red dot, I was like, his head looked kind of small. About that time, he came around full, and he popped in the strut, and he had that hi-hat fan. And I said, uh-oh. It was another one come in behind him, and he went to strutting too. And so at the time, I'm thinking, I'm like, is that the turkey I'm hearing gobbling? Is it a bull jake? And about that time, pow, and he's still around the point. So it was, I know at least 2 hens, 2 jakes, and then this longbeard just never would come around where I could see him. I had the jakes at 30 yards for 20 minutes. Like, no lie, like 20 minutes. But, it was hard to walk. They finally, they finally eased off, and it was hard to feel dejected because that was such a fun hunt.
Man.
Yeah.
When you get up in tight like that, it's something to be part of.
Yeah. I mean, it was a little bit of luck, involved with a little bit of educated guess because I'd heard him there yesterday. Granted, he wasn't right there because if I'd known he was right there, I wouldn't have tried. I wouldn't have pushed the issue trying to get that close, I don't think. I don't think of myself as being that stealthy to pull that off. But I'm trying to think what happened between there. I kind of, after that day, things kind of went dry for me. Like, yeah. I know one morning I made a 6-mile loop. It was like 6 miles and some change according to my iPhone. And I had heard 0 gobbles the entire day. And then I did a similar loop where I did a little bit over 5 miles on Sunday afternoon because the weather was gorgeous, and I did not hear a singular turkey. Fortunately, all that changed this past Monday.
Monday morning.
Yeah, and it was 20 degrees. I talked to you on the phone, and I was like, man, I don't know if they're going to gobble or not. It was like 23 degrees.
No, it hurt. It was so cold.
It was 23 degrees, which if there's folks here from the Midwest or out West listening to this, y'all are like 23. That ain't nothing. I'm telling you, for Mississippi in the spring, that is cold. That's real cold. But to tell the story of this hunt is I was standing there where, I'd marked a spot where I wanted to listen, and I finally hear a turkey, and this turkey gobbled early enough that I still had a fair enough amount of ground to cover, but I was like, I can set up on this turkey while he's still on the limb. I felt confident about that. And I get down in there, and there was a timber change, and so I wanted to hear him again to make sure, I can be bad about miscoursing things. And he gobbled again, and I'm working my way around the end of this timber change, and I can see the wood start to open up, and I hadn't gotten there quite. I hadn't made it to that quite as early as I wanted to. So I was like, turkey may still be in a tree, turkey may not still be in a tree, but I do know that I want to check before I go busting out into these wide open woods. So I yelp, and when I yelp, it was a similar situation to what happened to me the second morning of the season. I mean, I yelped soft. Like, I didn't cluck, I didn't cut. I mean, just yelped a couple notes. And this hen immediately starts answering me, who is, one, not far, and two, still in the tree.
You must have your singing voice and pitched.
I mean, I've got the – I don't know if I've shown you the cell phone clip, because at one point, how it turned out, they were close enough to me. I knew I couldn't. There's no way I could step into them open woods. No way. I would have. If I had stepped into them open woods, it would have sounded like a covey flush.
Nice. Sasquatch.
Yeah. So I find a good tree. I sit down, and again, I'm like, this is my play. I'm like, he's where if he's where I thought he was originally, they're not roosted. They're not far off from each other, but not roosted together. It's like my best chance is to get them hens to come to me, and hopefully it comes. The hens were fired up as you could want a hen to ever get fired up. There was like 6 of them in there, and they were cutting and cackling and yelping, and I'm yelping back to them. And I started to get concerned because this went on for several minutes, me sitting down yelping at these hens, and the turkey gobbled like twice. And so I'm like, man. And in the midst of that, they flew down, got on the ground. I could see one of those hens moving through a little bit one time, looking through binoculars. But that turkey, I was like, man, he is not. Them hens ain't coming to me, and he definitely ain't coming to me.
Probably got 1.5 spurs.
I mean, seriously, 6 or 8 hens, and between me and all of them going back, I mean, twice, just, and I'm, so I'm like, I may kill him, but I'm not going to kill him like this, because they're moving the other way up the creek. And he is not, I mean, like, he is happy with what he's got,
Yeah.
And so the hen started oozing down the creek, and I said, man, the only chance I got is to let them get far enough down where I can move, get back out on the other side of this timber change where the woods are back opened up, and try to loop around and get in front of them. So that was my play.
I seen their tracks this morning.
Did you?
Yeah.
So I walk around, I get back into the woods where they're opening back up, and I'm thinking about heading to get in front of that creek, and I said, I had faintly heard, I'd heard 2 turkeys. This is just the closer one than the one I went to. And I was like, it just looked too pretty where I was at. I said, I need to make sure I give something else a chance to gobble before I just go blazing through these woods. I don't even get my slate call out of my pocket. Like, I'm reaching for my slate call, and wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
And it was, and this gobble was maybe 250 yards, maybe. And it was and it was a still morning, and it happened like it's such a strange timing. I was like, did I make that up? You know how you can do that? You're like,
yep.
It's not like the gobble was hard to hear, but I was like, did I just make that up in my head? So I wait a little bit. I get my slate call out. I look. I'm like, if things get real, I'm going to go sit right there, and I get my slate and sweet goodness. And it kind of rolled uphill a little bit, and so I said, I'm getting some ground on him. So I marched straight at him up that hill where I knew I had, and he was probably a little less than 250. Maybe he wasn't 200, 220, 230, something like that. So I marched. I get about 40 yards. And I yelp again. He's a little bit closer, but I don't like where I'm at because the woods are open. So I see a little spot, and I get up again, and I start getting nervous, and I yelp again. And he's now, I don't know, somewhere between 150 and 180. And I'm like, I've got to get sat down. This turkey is coming. So all I had, the best cover I looked at, there was a big fallen down oak tree. And I said, if I pop a knee behind that and just lean my gun over it, I'm as hid as I could ever want to be.
Yeah.
So I just drop to a knee, get behind it, put my gun over it. Also, not to mention it's about as good of a gun rest as you could ask for. Yeah. My gun's laid on this old oak tree, like shooting off a bench pert near. But I get set, and even still, like, I know the turkeys. You know how it is. It's like when you get sat down, the first thing is like,
Did I spook?
I hope I didn't spook it, you know. So I get I know, like, I'm 100% sure everything's ready, and I yelp on my mouth call, just yelp, 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 yelp. I'm like, gosh almighty. And he had to go, he was up on a kind of a bench. He had to go down a gradual hill, and I could hear him when he was down in that bottom. And by the time when I yelped next to that log, he would start to come back up. And he finally gets on that top, and at this point, he's 100 yards. And he gobbled probably 3 times for that 100-yard mark. And he gobbled just enough from that spot that I was worried he was going to hang up. Because I was like, man, he is – I don't know what his vantage point is. He could be looking down this hill and being like, I'm not seeing what I want to see. But my saving grace, I thought, is I was close enough to that timber change that he might think that I'm in this younger timber and he just can't see me.
Yeah.
Well, these thoughts are rolling through my head, and all of a sudden, boom, and I'm like, and I start looking every which way. I'm like, where is he? Where is he? Where is he? And about that time, I catch movement, and I look over, and I hear, and I see his neck stretch out when he gobbles. And he's about 80 yards. But we're just in these open woods, and he's skirting me. You know, he's not just coming dead at me. He's kind of flanking wide right of me. But he's wide, but he's kind of angling towards me. He's 80 yards at the time, and he strutting and gobbling and fast walking, and he'd stop and he'd strut and he'd gobble. And at one point, I was like, man, he's going to swing so wide, I'm not going to be able to kill him. But
was it going towards a young timber?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was what he was thinking, that he was in there.
That's what saved me.
Yeah.
If I had been, man, I think if I would have set up 40, 30 yards further out in the open timber, I don't know if I would have killed him.
Right.
Because obviously I stopped yelping. The only thing I did noise-making wise, because I was blocked by that big tree, is I took my left hand, which was behind the tree, and I scratched in the leaves some. And he walked through one hole at about, I guessed it to be 60 yards. And I'm just being honest. Had he stopped in that hole, I may have considered it, but he didn't even stop. Like, he just went through there. And I was like, well, you know, I don't even have to make that decision, you know. And next time I see him, he is angling towards me harder. And I'm thinking, okay, I can make this work. I can make this work. But he's getting pretty wide right of me now, so I'm having to, every time he goes behind a tree, I'm having to swing my gun. I'm having to move, you know, shift a little bit to the right. And so far, I've gone without getting caught. You know, he keeps popping out, and he's still in the half strut and on a steady walk. And there's another fallen over tree, but it's fallen up. The tree has broken and fallen over high enough at the trunk that, I mean, it's like a 4-foot gap between the tree and the ground.
Made like a triangle.
Yeah. And the way he was walking, I said, he's walking under that gap in the tree. And I said to myself, I know if he gets up under that tree, he's every bit in range. He's about to be 40 yards. So he goes, and he's walking. He's paralleling behind this fallen tree, and I lose a little bit of him. I can just see the top of his head. The next thing I know, I see him walk under that tree, and he has one more tree to get through. And I thought he stepped fully behind that tree, and I go to swivel my gun more, but he didn't. And I see he caught me on that last move, and I saw all of a sudden I catch him stop, and I see his head pop out from behind that tree.
Go backwards, right?
Yeah, he just went, Phoom. And I said, man, if I don't shoot him now, I ain't going to. And so, boom, I shoot. He falls, and I gave the world my best 40 time that I had to offer, and I had him. And it was, man, from the time that I yelped at him and he gobbled at me for the first time to the time I pulled the trigger was 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was one of those, everything you could ever want.
Yeah,
you know?
This makes it look easy sometimes.
It's just, yeah.
That same morning, I went hunting. The spot you've been tangling with them turkeys for 2 days, and walked in there and hooted a couple times, did not hear nothing. I'm sitting there like cussing Lake, like he don't run all my turkeys out of here. And so, God, no wonder he's going somewhere different this morning. And anyway, I finally hear a turkey as far as I can hear, like it'd be to my west. It's like, I'm gonna start booking it that way. Like, I know that's a turkey I just heard, and he's a long way. Let me get going.
Yeah.
And it may have been turkey still around where I was. I just didn't give him time to gobble. Because when I heard that one, I was like, it was gone. Anyway, I walked like, I don't know, a quarter mile down there and stopped, hoot, nothing. I ain't heard nothing since that one time. I decided to be smart about this and sit by a tree and just listen for a while.
Just sit down.
Just sit down.
Which is hard to do sometimes.
Because you want to keep going a lot of times. And I sit there like 15 minutes without saying nothing, and I ain't heard not a gobble, not a hen. I ain't heard nothing that even remotely sounds like a turkey. So I decided to yelp. I yelped soft starting out, just normal like feeding yelps, just like
content noises, yeah.
Didn't hear nothing. Do that. Wait a couple minutes. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to see if anything's around here. I'm going to give them the best effort of a hen looking for somebody.
Yeah. Yep at them.
Do a real excited, like,
Uh-huh.
And I do that, and this song goes like 150 yards from me. Oh, gosh.
We're in the game.
And 10 seconds go by, and he gobbles by himself, and he's moving towards me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, boy. Get my gun up, get ready. I think I can kill him from where I'm at. I'm in a pretty good spot.
You're already planning on letting me know that you killed the turkey that I tried to kill. He's like, I'm going to have fun with this.
I was already going through the gloat in my head. It's like, your daddy had to come up in here and kill these turkeys for you, boy. And anyway, I yelp at him one more time after he gobbles. As soon as he gobbles, I lay into it. He goes,
one of them extended gobbles.
Yeah. And I shut up at that point. And it wasn't 30, 45 seconds. The last time he gobbled was 125 yards. I'm like, I'm going to see this son gun any minute. I'm in a briar thicket. And I can see 30, 40 yards in there, which turkeys, I think, can move through it. It's like perfect, like nest cover, like tight briars. Like turkey can see over top of it.
Mm-hmm.
But, and they can walk through gaps and such. But
sure.
I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear boom. I'm like, where is he?
Yeah.
Where is he? I can't see him. And it's getting louder.
Yeah.
I'm like, his turkey's within 50 yards, no doubt.
Sure.
And I heard him drawing for like 5 minutes, and I'm steadily like scanning, like I think my eyeballs are spinning in my head.
Yeah, because everything, is that a turkey? Was that there before? Did that just move?
At one point, I go cross-eyed and can't see anything. Just got to shut my eyes for a second, refocus. Yeah. I sat there for 30 minutes. I heard him drawing for like 10 minutes, but I sat there for a total of 30 minutes not moving a muscle.
Yeah.
And never did lay eyes on this turkey.
Yeah.
I don't know where he went, what happened. I ain't got a clue. But I sat there for a whole hour combined from when I heard him drumming to when I was like ready to do something.
Yeah.
I finally heard a hen behind me, so I'm assuming he kind of skirted the side of me.
Yeah.
There's a little bit cleaner brush over there and went back in there to them. So that was my morning that morning, too.
I mean, if it was that same turkey, which good chance that it was, he was covered up in hens the day I almost killed him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the longer time draws on, if he, remains alive, them hens are going to get sparser and sparser. So, who knows? But
I was so proud you killed one that morning, though, too. That was awesome. When you told me the story, I was like, man.
It was good, man.
And that timber in there where you're at, I mean, it's just like gorgeous, like 100-year-old pines.
Yeah. And you could tell there'd been fire run through there at one point. I mean, it was just pretty. It was. I mean, I couldn't think of a prettier spot to shoot one and to see one. You don't see all the time them coming in acting like that.
No, and I mean people say you get tired of it if they did that every time, but
I don't think I would.
I'd love to find out.
Yeah, I'd love to be given that opportunity to get tired of it.
When those times do happen, especially in places like that, you're like, man, I'm so grateful for this.
Especially because it's like, I mean, it would have been, if I would have killed him, if it would have been that turkey straight off the roost and he acted like that, I'd have loved that too. But tied in with the fact that I had that back and forth with those hens for that long, and then I wonder sometimes, or I wonder looking back at it, I'm like, man, was I was that turkey far off and between the younger pines and the terrain? Had he been gobbling at me and those hens the entire time and I hadn't heard him,
Possible.
Because, for me to – I had just stepped back out into those open woods and so it makes me wonder. I'm like, was he already trying to, come that direction?
Right.
Who knows? All I know is he made me a very happy turkey hunter that day.
Mm-hmm. And I ain't found a turkey since.
Well.
It's been a hard go of it the last 3 days.
It's all right. Maybe it'll change in the morning.
It'll all turn around. Mm-hmm. Especially that phone call we had a while ago with that little feller. That was pretty funny.
He's a fired up little feller.
Dave's been in Mississippi for a week now, and he's coming back here today.
Poor guy.
So he says.
All right. Well, we've rambled on as much as we need to. I hope if you are in an area where you can turkey hunt already, I hope your spring season is treating you tremendously. If you're not within turkey season yet, stay strong, stay the course. It'll be here before you know it.
Oh, hang on. Alabama, and I think maybe Georgia opens up here next week or so.
Yep.
So good luck to all y'all boys.
Stay safe out there. Remember, keep it fun. And, we'll catch y'all back here next week. As always, thank y'all so very much for listening to the Speak the Language podcast presented by OnX Hunt.